So, Adam, thanks for inviting me into your home.
No problem.
Can we start with your age and where you was born, please?
Yeah, I'm 40 this year. I was 40 this year, sorry, I should say. 10th of March. Um, I was born right here in Wolverhampton in New Cross Hospital in 1985. Um, and I'm now, like I say, I'm 40, I'm disabled. I'm in a wheelchair and yeah, I have to sort of live around that. I have to live in a ground level property, etc., and be able to get to all my stuff and
When did
whatever.
you become disabled?
Um, they, I had an attack when I was 21 years old. Um, the entire side of my face went numb. All the one half of my body was completely numb, but it felt like pins and needles all over here. And I went into hospital then at 21. I had MRI scans, lumbar punctures, all sorts of different tests and assessments, and they found that there was damage on parts of my brain, and although it wasn't significant enough to call it anything else, um, they said, if it comes back, it'll likely come back in 7 years, and if it does come back, it's multiple sclerosis. So, um, 7 years to the week, it came back. When
Exactly.
exactly. So that was when I was 28. Um,
And what happened then?
when I was 28, the the disease attacked me again, and I lost again. Not It wasn't like a pins and needles, but I couldn't I couldn't move my leg properly. I couldn't lift my leg properly. I was dragging it along, and it didn't feel right. I knew that something was it had come back. I knew it at that point, and when I
Was it the
went,
same type of feeling as the previous 7 year?
yeah, yeah, similar sort of feeling, like an unexplainable numbness and tiredness that you just can't shake off. Um, it's like a fatigue, like so. If you do something and you let's say you do it 100 times and it starts to ache, like you know what I mean, because you've done it so many times, and you get to the point where you can't do it anymore. It feels like that after, instead of 100 times, it feels like after 10 times. You know what I mean? So the fatigue side of it was a massive thing as well, and all those feelings came back, and yeah, they scanned me again, and there was more damage. So it
Damage to
was,
your brain?
it was, yeah, it was multiple sclerosis. Um, as it stands now, where I'm at, I've got multiple lesions on my brain and multiple lesions on my spine as well. So yeah, I've got like a pretty rough side of it, if you like. I certainly wasn't very lucky in the deal on that one, but um, it is what it is. You've got to take every day as it comes, and be the best version of yourself, really. Um,
How did you deal with that at such a young age?
it's difficult, um, seeing older people than you that are obviously more able than you. That's always a difficult one to swallow. Um, I just hope that, you know, people appreciate what they've got with their health, and you know, if they don't, I certainly hope I can inspire them to, because you know, prior to becoming so early, I was quite an active guy. You know, I never sat still really.
What did you do before your illness?
My previous job before I got so poorly was I used to make fire doors. So yeah, if you can imagine a guy my sort of size walking around with a fire door, it doesn't compute now really. It would squash me, but then it didn't. I've obviously lost a lot of weight, and that since then, and you know, at the time I was fit
Does
and
it
well.
affect your other muscles?
Yeah,
or is it only your legs?
it is my legs that it affects in terms of, you know, ability to move and mobility. My arms aren't affected mobility wise. I can still move my arms and that. So yeah, it is just mostly in my legs, to be honest, where I struggle. I can have days where it becomes difficult to grip sometimes, but it tends to be when it's cold. So you know, swings and roundabouts really. I can be cold, but I can also wear gloves, can't I? So you can't grumble too much. But yeah, it's a tough one to swallow. Like when you obviously like you're younger and you see somebody who's, you know, 20 years your senior doing things that you'd like to do. It's difficult. Like
Yeah,
it is hard.
I can imagine. So, how do you think that, or should I say, did they tell you how the MS came around?
No, to this day, um, nobody can seem to decide where it comes from. Um, it doesn't appear to run in families or anything, so it's not your genes, it's not genetic. Um, it, weirdly enough, it affects people more so in the northern hemisphere than the southern hemisphere of the world. Um, Weirdly, I don't know why that is, but on the whole, no one really knows what causes it or where it comes from, or you know what I mean, how you end up with it essentially.
So there was no like major events in your childhood that, any injuries or anything like that.
No, like I say, I was fit and well when I was 21, and I had that first attack. When it eventually went away, I went back to a normal life. I mean,
In that 7 year
in
period.
that 7 year period, I was back working. You know, even playing like five-a-side football for the company team and things like that. So I
And
was
everything was normal.
I was active, and yeah, everything was. I got myself back to normal. Um, Obviously, a bit of physio, things like that, but on the whole, it wasn't too difficult to get back up and running again. Um, what I've found more recently, like as the attacks have, you know, become more aggressive over the years, you find that things have become extremely hard to fight off. Things that you know you could do, you wake up one day and you can't do it.
So you feel like it attacks your immune system as well.
Yeah, the immunity side of it is difficult. As a disease, it's classed as an autoimmune disease. So the way that it attacks you is by using your own immune system. It turns your own immunity system against you, and that's how it attacks your nerves and your cells. So, yeah, being that kind of illness, immunity is always a bit of a worry, because when things come around, illnesses, that this year's cold or flu is a bit of a stinker, then yeah, if I get it, I know I'm going to feel it. It's probably going to aggravate my MS symptoms as well. So on a whole, I try and avoid getting too many colds and flu, things like that, because I don't tend to deal with them so well, and it takes me a lot longer to fight them off. Certainly without antibiotics or drugs, it's difficult. My body doesn't shake things off like it used to, but that's the nature of the illness. It almost looks for a cold to come along, so it can use that to G itself up and start aggravating you again.
Yeah, and how does that flare up the MS?
If I'm ill, if I'm poorly, I've got cold, flu, things like that. It'll make me more tired. So I generally just wouldn't be able to get up like I have today. Get myself cleaned up, have a shower. Even getting dressed and things like that take it out of you. So when you've got a cold, any sort of underlying things, it really aggravates you. It just makes you feel like you can't get out of the bed, you can't lift your head off the pillow. It just feels rotten every time you try to get up. It's just like somebody pushing you back down again.
Yeah, I think we can all get that in being in able bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can imagine.
I don't disagree.
Worse
I don't disagree.
Your affliction.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we can all feel like that at times. What you've got to do is try and imagine it is, times it by 5, times it by 10. You know what I mean? And that it's around about that sort of area.
Close.
Yeah, it's around about that sort of area. I'm not saying other people don't have pains, aches and pains and things like that, but it's a different kind of pain. It's unusually enough that the drugs and the painkillers that they give you, they're not paracetamol, they're not average painkillers.
So talking of which, what medication do you take
for
the MS?
I have to take baclofen quite regularly, which is a muscle relaxant because I have spasms, and I have to take gabapentin as well, which is becoming more and more popular in recent years, and people have, apparently tried to use it on the streets, so to speak, but the general use of the drug is as a neuropathic painkiller. Okay. So it helps a lot with my pain because that's where my pain stems from. It stems from my nerves being attacked and not being so well. So the signals don't get up and down the nerves probably as well as they should. That causes, in itself pain because your nerves are juddering the signal backwards and forwards. So yeah, when if you can get anything that sort of stops that, it's a blessing, really. Yeah. So yeah, those are probably the big ones: muscle relaxant, painkillers. I take an antidepressant every day. That's because it's on my prescription. But I have done so for the last over 10 years. So how good does it do me? I'm not sure, to be honest.
Well, what's the name of that one?
citalopram.
And how do you think that? Do you think it boosts your mood, or do
I
you
don't
think
think
you don't see the effects of it any longer?
I don't particularly feel like it gives any kind of boost or anything like that. I don't think it was meant for that. The way it feels to me is it's kind of like a subtle, yeah, this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. So we've all just got to make the best of it. It just brings you down a level. That's all I can say. If anything, it doesn't boost you up a level, if you like, and give you the power and the strength and the energy you need to combat your day.
Maybe.
Yeah, perhaps just calms you down over time and makes you think, yeah, I need to look at this a different way, or I need to change the way I think about this. So yeah, it's how if you give it enough time to work, I guess it does work, but it's no sort of magic fix. There is no magic pill. If you have a bad day with mental health, I think a lot of people can relate to this. A bad day with mental health is a bad day. It doesn't matter if you're 6'2", healthy, gorgeous. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. You're having a bad day, and mental health's a real stinker as well. It can attack some of the worst parts of you.
Do you feel like you feel that a little bit more being in your situation?
I think you become aware. You become aware that other people are they're having thoughts and feelings when they see you that they either do or don't want to have. I think not everyone's comfortable talking to somebody in a wheelchair.
Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I
do you think they have some type of prejudgment about you?
Maybe. There's lots of people in wheelchairs, and I think to discount or discredit them, not talk to them based on that's insulting. So I would never do that, even when I was able-bodied. You know what I mean? I would always sort of, make the effort. But I think it changes, like being in the chair. You notice how it changes the way people talk to you. So just because someone's got to effectively come down to you like a child, you're getting this, how are you today? Are you okay?
You feel like you're getting automatically belittled.
Yeah, I think, and that's not even necessarily like me saying that that's a bad person because they're doing that. They're probably lovely. They're probably one of the nicest people you could ever meet, and all they really want to do is see if you're okay and ask you if they can do anything for you, and that's beautiful. But I don't always think people get the arrangement of the words right, or the way that they go into the conversation with you. So I'm big enough to recognise that, to see that. I would hope.
If you could say something to somebody that maybe looks down on people in wheelchairs, what would you say?
It's a difficult one. I've always thought that, since being stuck in the chair, I've always thought, what an eye opener it is just to spend a day in a chair, just to spend the day in a wheelchair, whether you can walk or not. Just sit in that chair for a day, use your arms to get about, or get somebody to push around. See what that's like. See what it's like to have somebody who you're so used to walking next to behind you, pushing you because you're in a chair. That's very different. Not because they're behind and I'm in front or whatever, but because it changes the perspective of the conversation that you're having. You're now down here and you're talking to someone who's over there. So yeah, I think it's interesting to say, you know, what would you say to, you know, to somebody, you know, what would you say to people who look down on people in wheelchairs? But
or are afflicted in any other
yeah,
circumstance of life?
I think that it's not just wheelchairs. I had just as many strange looks before I got to the wheelchair, which is when I was mobilising with crutches.
How long
Everywhere
did you do
up.
that for?
Has to be 10 years.
So you haven't long been in the wheelchair?
No. I've been in the wheelchair for about 12 months. I've been confined to the chair now.
Okay.
I can still stand. I can still turn and, you know what I mean, get off this seat and get in another seat, or get in bed or wherever I need to go, with the car. But essentially, I can no longer walk. So I have to use this to get from one place to another, or another chair. But it's it's difficult when you see people, their mentality and their demeanor sort of towards you seems to change. And I used to get it with the crutches as well, and that wasn't always nice when, you know, kids are looking at you with crutches, like, why has he got crutches? That's, I think.
Do you think because of the age, maybe as well?
Yeah, and you know, I never blame kids for what they think or how they're looking at you or whatever, because when you're a kid, you don't know any better. The only people you can really blame is the adults in that situation. If your child looks at somebody in a wheelchair and screams their head off, you know, that's really not the child's problem. That's probably your problem.
So how do you think your affliction has altered relationships, if any?
Well, I am married. Um, my wife and I were engaged before I got diagnosed.
Okay.
And I think it says a lot that even though we weren't married when I was diagnosed, she still married me. So, yeah, I think.
You got married after your diagnosis?
Yeah,
So she knew that.
She knew that I was ill, and I think that means a lot. That, you know, I think, you know, you found someone special when it doesn't change their opinion of you or their feelings towards you just because your health changes. That's kind of important. Yeah. My wife is my rock. You know, she's there through thick and thin, and she's held my hand through a lot of medical procedures and other things that, you know, I will, but I shouldn't go into if you want. But
That's totally up to you.
no, I just mean, nobody wants to hear about, you know, having cameras shoved down the end of things. That's all.
Okay, so let's change to some light-heartedness. What's your favourite type of music?
I love music. I love nearly all kinds of music, to be honest. There's not a lot of music that I won't give the time of day to at any point really. Um, that includes classical music. That includes rock, pop, um, rap, hip hop, even grime. You know, the UK rap scene. I've listened to a lot of that over the years, and I was like a little bit involved with it when I was younger as well. Like I'm sure a lot of people were. You know, it was cool. It was fashionable to have decks, to have vinyls, mics. You know, people getting on the mic, spitting lyrics for a laugh, and just that that gave us a lot of joy growing up. And essentially, maybe it wasn't early growing up years, but when you're sort of you're shaping yourself, in those later teenage years, it's a great enjoyment. Music, I've found a lot of enjoyment in it over my life so far.
Amen.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful art.
Do you think that the youth of today have still got that same type of attitude towards creativity?
I think that the youth of today are creative. I think that they want to be creative. The patience worries me. Great art, great pieces of music, great pictures, great paintings, great anything, great songs, great films, a lot of great art takes a considerable amount of time to create. If you want to write the best song in the world, you'd have to sit and write it over a period of time, and that's where I say patience worries me. Everything's now delivered to the youth of today via their mobile devices and the internet within a matter of seconds, and they don't want to wait for anything.
You think that's because of social media?
Well, I just think it's generally because of the way technology is now. You don't wait for a show, a TV show anymore. You go online, you go to the channel's website, and you watch the latest episode of the show that came out today or whatever. And it's more of an on-demand culture that they've grown up in. When I was younger, if you wanted to watch a program, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm older than I am or anything here, right? But
with technology, it moves so quick.
I'm only 40, if you like, yeah. But when I wanted to watch a program as a child, you had to be sat in front of the television set with the television tuned into that station that your program was on at the exact time that your program was due to start. This sounds absolutely.
The new generation wouldn't wait. They wouldn't be there.
It's
something
just
else to do.
it just sounds diabolical. It just, why would anybody do that? I saying it now, I can't believe I did that. but that is what we had to do. If you wanted to watch a program that was on at 4 o'clock, at 5 to 4, you were sat in front of that TV, waiting for the previous program to finish. There's small adverts and then your program to start. And I think that shows massively how much times have changed in terms of the delivery of media and the expectations of people. They don't want to listen to it when they get home. They want to listen to it now. And they can. I think it's available. I think it's been made available and very, very easily accessible to people. They're paying through their nose for it. They want to pay through their nose to listen to a record that they've probably got in the cupboard on CD, tape, vinyl, whatever. But you're buying it again and again, and it's just the same thing that you've already got. I think that's died, and that's sad. That's a sad thing to lose.
Do you think the accessibility is a good thing?
I think that it's great that we can access all these different media products, if you like, music, films, television programs, series, box sets that you can stream instantly on demand. I think it's good. It's a great advancement in technology. Is it great for us as human beings? Probably not. Like I say, I think it gave us a degree of patience to be sat in front of that TV waiting for our program to start.
To know it wasn't ready when you say it's ready.
Yeah. How how primitive it seems now to not be able to pause the TV to go for a wee. That sounds primitive, but that's the time people my age. That's the time we grew up in, and it sounds primitive by today's standards.
So where do you think the technology is going?
I think that inevitably it will go the wrong way, even if it goes the right way as well. I think there's no question that it's advancing way, way too quickly for us to cope with as human beings. We can barely keep up with a Casio calculator on maths. So why would we think we can keep up with some, quantum supercomputer? It's not going to happen. The thing can obviously think and process information quicker than we can because it's a computer. It's not a flawed piece of organic matter like we are. But I think if it does go in the right way, then like I say, it's going to go in the wrong way as well. Will they cancel each other out? Perhaps that's a good question.
So do you think we're heading towards the sci-fi of the 1980s? Or do you think that humanity is clever enough not to reenact art over and over again?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Will we ever see Judgment Day, the rise of Skynet? I don't think to that degree now. I don't think we're going to be fighting robots in 25 years or anything like that. I think AI is coming on in leaps and bounds, but it's only as clever as the information available to it, and we're providing that information. So I think as human beings that have seen these films and heard these stories so many times where, for one reason or another, the robots try and take over the world. I think we're clever enough now and practiced, and I don't know what the correct word is. Perhaps we're groomed into thinking if I don't put a fail-safe in this, it will take over the world.
You mean subconsciously through
Yeah,
the science
I
fiction
think
that
through
we've
the
had?
science, I think through the science fiction, I think through the films, through the stories, that we will turn around and say, no, I'm not building this war machine with the ability to kill human beings, because it kind of defeats the object. It can destroy what created it. It's not a circle, is it? It's not a circle of anything. It's a beginning and an end. Man makes robot, robot kills man. There you go. That's it. What does the robot do then?
So, do you think that these things will be used for war?
I think that with the amount of money that the military of the world's militaries, different countries spend on weapons and just general military in a day, I think that there's no question that they have to try and somehow use it, because to them, surely the death of a robot is better than the death of a human, surely, for the military.
You'd hope so, for mankind, really.
Yeah. So, do I think robots have got a place in that? Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. I don't want Fred to go and disarm the bomb. I want the little robot to go and disarm the bomb. Because if it blows up, it blows the little robot up, not Fred.
When does the robot then be defined of what human it kills and what it doesn't kill? Or would you advise to only have them in places of disarmament?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think we're anywhere near that sort of human killing robot making stage just yet. I'm not saying that we haven't got it in us. I think that the human race will inevitably head that way, because, like I say, there's too much money in the military to not. I think, yeah, it's difficult, because we want to progress as a race, and sometimes it feels like you're taking a step back with some of the developments with the military, robots, essentially making killing machines. Why do we want to do that? That's, I guess, one of the ugly parts of us as human beings, is we still want to pour so much money into our ability to kill.
Do you think that's out of defence or genetic?
No, I think that's long term. I think that's in us from thousands of years ago. If not longer than that. I think we've always wanted to be, from history, you can see that we've always wanted to be top of the food chain, and we've nearly always managed to do it, unless we've come up against other humans. That's when we've had a war, because it can't be reached. The top of that food chain can't be reached at the end of the day, can it? I don't think so.
So it's the power thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll ever change in humans?
I think it's primitive. I think it's something that's definitely in the human race, like it or not. However you think of us, I think that there's always going to be that side of us there, and yeah, it is always going to be pretty ugly. People that want, and are happy to take from others, even if it's life.
So, how do you think the future will look in 50 years from now? With the changes you said that have happened from you being a child?
I don't think that we can even begin to imagine 50 years. Seeing how far things have come in the last 25 years is shocking enough. To witness the next 50 years would be an absolute blessing, because that'd make me 90. But what will we see? I really don't know. I think that it can only get more saturated with the technology, the advancements in robotics, things like drones delivering your shopping, things like that. All of these things are going to go a lot further. They're going to be massively used. It's not going to be long before Amazon drone knocks your door and drops your parcel off instead of a guy or a woman. It's definitely going that way. More automation in things, but I do worry because it takes away jobs from people, and that's fine. But you've got to still give those people purpose, and give them a reason to want to get up every day. And I can't think, it must be pretty upsetting when a robot takes your job. That's all I can think.
So do you think we can could we create other jobs through losing the jobs that we know today?
I think that inevitably, unfortunately, the reduction in workforce is going to happen because it only takes one human to program 50 robots on a production line who can then do a job that would normally be done by 50 humans. And then it only really takes that one human to program the robot and press the start button, essentially. And there you go, there's 50 humans that we don't need on that production line.
So you don't think there's any other aspects of life that would need jobs creating that only humans can do?
It's an interesting one.
Or do you feel that the technology and the robotics would just completely surpass capabilities?
I'd like to think not. I'd like to think that we can keep a handle on those sort of things. But I already think it kind of is. We're already coming up with stuff that we don't really know how to get the best out of it. It's difficult, like I say, with modern technology. I'm never certain that it's going to go the right way or the wrong way or both. I just don't know.
Do you think it could get to a position where it could help people in your situation maybe become able-bodied again?
Yeah, for sure. There is the whole, exoskeleton suit. That the army, the military again, have apparently had for years now this exoskeleton suit where if I put it on I could walk again. It would support my limbs and go in the direction that I told it to. So yeah, there are things out there definitely that could.
I was thinking more along the lines of maybe we come across some type of information that we didn't know before that could heal your own body, not create a new one, so
we're talking cure, and I mean there is no cure for what I have, but it's interesting to try and think, well, how could you cure it? I mean, essentially, it's demyelination. So it's stripping the fatty tissue off my nerves that protects your nerves. You've got a little fatty tissue surrounding your nerve, and mine's been attacked, which is causing the nerve impulses to jump and jagger backwards and forwards. If the body could replace the myelin, then I could heal myself. But my body, your body, no one's body makes myelin. Unfortunately, it doesn't repair, not to that degree. There's suggestions that it might be able to repair little tiny damaged parts of a nerve, but somebody who's been attacked by a disease, it's not going to be able to fill those holes in, if you like. So the real difference or contrast to that, although I can't make myelin, I can't make that fatty tissue, I can't make nerve cells. As humans, we can't do that. We can do that with stem cells. Stem cells can be any cell, so they can be myelin, they can be nerves. We can now use those stem cells to do a lot of things in health. I would hope that one day perhaps the stem cell treatments and therapies can become used to maybe replace what's been damaged. But that's probably the only way that I'm going to get a cure anyway in my lifetime. That's the only way you can replace what's gone. So obviously, I think that the fact that it's proven to work in those situations, and the fact that we know that we can grow any organ from stem cells, I think we should really be funding it a lot more.
I agree. I agree with. So what piece of advice would you give somebody else in your circumstance?
It's okay to not be okay. I think anybody in my circumstances, better or worse, I think we're entitled to have a bit of a down day. Everybody gets their down days. Everybody, wakes up and feels a little bit that day. It's okay to feel like that about your chair, your illness, how you feel, how you might look, or how you think you look to people. It doesn't matter that. It's okay to feel bad about those things and to feel like, I'm having a shit day. That's okay. When you don't feel like that, try and smile. That's probably the only advice I could give. you know, when you're not feeling crap because of, you know, the cards that you've been dealt. Try and feel happy about something. Try and do something you enjoy. Set yourself a goal every day, even if it's something silly. Get up and do it.
What gets you through the day?
I think for me here, my dogs.
That was a good timing.
Yeah, time as usual, perfect timing. My dogs help, obviously. I think they're massively important to humans. You know, there's a reason we've domesticated these animals for thousands and thousands of years, and I think they can give you a lot more back than you can give to them. So yeah, I think they help me through. Pets in general. I love animals. You know, got a respect for them. I have a bearded dragon also. We have a fish pond. Yeah, there's lives everywhere that they're all depending on me and my wife to feed them and look after them, and that's a pleasure. That's a pleasure that shouldn't be, you know, squandered, shouldn't be taken for granted. Each one's a little life, like I say, and the fact that you're getting to look after this beautiful creature, you know, I think that should be something that should be celebrated, really, not something that should be, you know, oh, I've got the dog again, and, you know, the dog's playing up, or the dog's done this, or, well, you know, perhaps take the dog and walk then. You know.
Yeah. So is there any piece of advice that anybody's gave you that you'd like to pass on to the next generation?
Like I say, I think I've mentioned multiple times, my message to the next generation is probably don't underestimate the importance of patience, because everybody in their life will come across something that they have to wait for, and there's no other choice other than wait. So learn patience. It's a great skill to have, and yeah, no, I don't think I'd try and push any other messages on people. Perhaps just, you know, don't underestimate the guy in the wheelchair, or, you know, the guy on crutches, or, you know, the guy with, I don't know, neck collar on it, or, you know, a guy with his arm and leg in a cast, or whatever, and looks like he's fell down several hills and mountains. Just don't underestimate people that for that moment are, you know, struggling, because, you know, might be a time when they're not, or a situation where they don't struggle, and you might need their help. Like I say, just don't underestimate us. I think this is a message that Paralympics GB has already put across quite well, and entertaining a lot of people whilst doing it. But it's not just Paralympians and things like that. It's everyone that struggles or has an ailment. Don't underestimate them, and don't judge them on what's wrong with them. Try and talk to them first, give them a chance, perhaps judge them then.
Well said. So, the start of the conversation, I left a notepad on your left.
Yes.
Can you write a question for the next interviewee that I can ask from your perspective.
Okay. Well, I won't write it because you'll never read it.
I can write that for you. That's fine.
It'll look like a spider's run across your page, man. Got ink everywhere. You will not be able to read it. I think the question for the next people. Probably what would you say was the most precious thing in life? You know, some people might say family, some people might say, you know, children, or, you know, some people might say, you know, gold or diamonds or something like that. But for me, I think it's love and just understanding, being on a level with someone. I think that's massively important. You know, find someone who gets you, and find someone who understands you, and you know, when you've got dollar and go, because everybody needs that bit of perspective and somebody to tell them when they're being a knob.
Right, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you.